But it's all about knowing the right tool for the job. We wouldn't run our entire organization off of paper, and most businesses don't. But every business has a time where they're going to use paper. You're never going to get away from having business without paper. It's just knowing where to put paper and where not to put paper, right? And that's a little bit easier for people to understand than spreadsheets, I feel like sometimes. They're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't run my entire business off of paper. That's silly. But then they think that they can go and do it on Excel. That's silly too.
It's either going to work or it's not. And so if you're listening to this right now, you may be able to relate to what I'm saying here, where you already have a spreadsheet and it's already to the point where you're feeling the pain of what that spreadsheet is doing. It's essential. It's something that you literally, like right now, if you could no longer access the spreadsheet, your business maybe would suffer a lot. However, there's a lot of pain points, a lot of manual tasks, a lot of data that might be wrong, or there might be one mistake might cause a whole cascade of mistakes. So you kind of probably know if you're in a position where you shouldn't use the spreadsheet any longer, or you need to transition away from it. You probably feel that to some extent while you're using it.
Yeah, and if you're not feeling it now, just wait till the size of your team doubles or the size of your data. Spreadsheets with a ton of data become really, really slow and they crash. Just wait till that happens. When your spreadsheet is crashing every time you open it, you'll be really quick to look for other solutions.
Yeah, ask yourself, what would happen if, number one, the size of my team doubled or tripled, or the size of my whatever operation you're running out of the spreadsheet, it doubled or tripled. Number two, what would happen if someone else besides me had to use this
and manage it? Like they had to admin it,
Yeah, they had to be in charge of it, because eventually you're going to have to delegate that to, you're not going to be able to be the sole manager or admin of your spreadsheet forever, right? So what would happen is the spreadsheet, would you trust your team, or would you be confident in lower level people basically running the spreadsheet or running the system out of the spreadsheet? Those are some questions you can ask, and then maybe it becomes clear that, okay, it's working. It got us to where we are, which is great, but maybe it's time now to retire the spreadsheet and move to something that is going to scale really well. It's going to automate even more of your labor and of the processes. And it could also introduce new capabilities that we probably will talk about in a little bit here, that maybe you've never even thought of or even realized that you could have, because you're so used to the limitations of the spreadsheet.
If you're passing the spreadsheet around, it's like an actual Excel. You're not using some online collaboration tool like Google Drive. Then you also have security concerns that you need to be aware of, right? You're passing around what is probably confidential information. You also don't have any sort of auditing capabilities. Like if somebody makes a change, is there any way that you know who that was? And so it's just really easy for sensitive information to be leaked. And it's really hard to know who leaked it. And it's really difficult to know who made what change. And then next thing you know, you find yourself in some sort of lawsuit, or worse, your business goes under or becomes a source of controversy. So it's just something to think about. And it's a good thing to think about the data security side of things before it becomes a problem, because after it becomes a problem, it's usually too late.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I remember we had that exact situation you were talking about one time at one of my jobs, where there was an actual Excel file that was getting passed around and updated as it was going, which is just a terrible idea. Somebody asks somebody else for the file, and maybe they got the version from 3 days ago and it's missing 700 rows, and so it's just like getting passed around the organization, and it ended up just being a big mess, right? So it's really cool how things like Google Sheets have tried to address a lot of these problems with spreadsheets, right? Like you were talking about that collaborative workflow. There's version history, who's in there and what they're doing. So that's really great. Tell me more about why it's still not the best solution. What are some of the things that people are running into that are common issues with spreadsheets, even if it's a Google Sheet?
As soon as you need custom logic, business logic built into the tool, where decision, like there are basically decisions or logical flows that have to happen. Like if the client wants this type of service, then this whole flow needs to happen. Otherwise, this other flow needs to happen, and we need approvals along the way. We need, all sorts of calculations, and you start trying to do it in Google Sheets or Excel, and you can do it to some extent where you can start looking up the really advanced stuff that maybe if you're really into spreadsheets, you probably know about, which is like, macros, even almost custom code type stuff you can do in Google Sheets, where you can literally write some scripts that run in Google Sheets. At that point, you're starting to get there to where it can do more for you, like where you press a button and it's doing all these different things and it's automating a bunch of stuff, right? But you're going to run into a place eventually where it just can't do what you want it to do. It just can't quite. You can't quite build those features into it because it's not made to be a fully custom app. So that kind of stuff is what you'll end up running into, I think.
Yeah, and even the online spreadsheet is still the wild, wild west in terms of people stepping on each other's toes with data changes. And still, it's difficult to know who made what change. Yeah, you can go look in the audit log, but if you have somebody in your organization that's not even supposed to be making changes to a table, there's really no way that you can enforce it unless you don't share access with them. But there's not any sort of permission systems where you could say, this user can do this and this user can't do this. If you give somebody access, then they can do everything. You can't say they can write to this table, but they can't read from it, for example. Things that you can do in other systems, right? You get some additional functionality, but the tool still falls short when it comes to running your entire business out of it. You still have human errors. They type in the wrong thing. They delete the wrong thing. At the end of the day, no matter if you're using a online spreadsheet or an offline one, you're still losing money. Your business will make more money if it's on modern tools that are built to handle this type of data in the way that your business needs it to.
That's a big one too, is just like the speed of all of these things happening. If you're using spreadsheets to store data, there's a certain limit to how much that sheet can contain, and then you've got to have another one created. And then if you want to go and you want to reference all of this data, even with a script, let alone manually, right? But even with the script, it's going to take a lot longer because it has to go check all these different files, and it's using these free services that you're getting through Google Sheets or whatever you're using, right? So it takes a long time. It's not the most efficient, clean way of creating and managing a database, right?